If this is a virtual reality, not only is the computer and your consciousness non-physical to you, which means this idea about your brain creates consciousness is wrong, which means you as a consciousness are immortal, but it also means that you have a purpose.
You're not waiting for the afterlife. You're already in it. This isn't speculation. It's not mysticism or metaphor. It's the truth that ancient mystics whispered and modern scientists are only now beginning to prove. What you call life might just be a continuation of consciousness after the death you don't remember. You didn't wake up in a world. You woke up in a lesson. And the walls around you, they're not made of stone or laws or limits. They're made of memory. You've been here before. The déjà vu, the loops, the ache in your chest that something's off, but you can't explain why. It's all part of the echo. You're not broken. You're not behind. You're simply unaware. And once you realize that everything you see, touch, love, and fear might be part of the after-death process, the question isn't, what happens when I die anymore? The question becomes, where am I now? And why? You've been here longer than you think. Not in this exact body, not with this particular name or story, but in this loop, in this echo of consciousness. And you've felt it, haven't you? The strange familiarity in places you've never been, the unexplainable bond with people you've just met, the sense that you're stuck in some kind of invisible pattern repeating itself. You call it coincidence. You call it intuition. But what if it's memory? What if this isn't your first time waking up in this realm, but just the first time you've started to question it? Long before modern scientists claimed their grip on reality, ancient traditions already mapped the terrain of what you're walking through now. In Tibetan Buddhism, the bardo is the in-between, a transitional space the soul travels through after death. But the bardo isn't just a place of spirits and disembodied wandering. It mirrors reality. Sounds a lot like life, doesn't it? The Hermeticists said it too, that reality is a mirror, a reflection of thought, and that death is not an end, but a gateway to further refinement. And what about the Gnostics? They taught that souls descend into this physical plane not for punishment, but for purification, a refinement through experience, a burning away of illusions until only awareness remains. And you're in it right now, walking through the flames without even knowing it. This isn't superstition. It's a framework that's endured across time, cultures, and continents. And what's terrifying isn't how strange it is. What's terrifying is how familiar it all sounds. You were told life was linear, birth, struggle, death. But what if that's the real illusion? What if you didn't begin when you were born, and you won't end when your heart stops beating? What if you've already died, and this is what comes next? Most people spend their lives waiting for some grand moment of transcendence, some tunnel of light, some whisper from the divine that confirms they've crossed over. But what if the crossing already happened? Quiet, seamless, instant. What if your moment of death was so ordinary you missed it, and now you're here, still chasing purpose, still wrestling with doubt, still carrying wounds that didn't start in this lifetime? Somewhere inside you, you know. That's why time feels off. That's why the same problems haunt you in different disguises. That's why your dreams bleed into waking life, and why some fears have no origin. Because this isn't a fresh start, it's a continuation. You're in the middle of a process that began long before you took your first breath. And if that unsettles you, good. You're supposed to feel disoriented. That confusion you feel right now, that's the first crack in the illusion. That's where the light comes in. Because once you stop asking what happens after death and start asking, where am I? You start to see this world differently. You begin to spot the loops, the patterns, the strange synchronizations, the teachers disguised as enemies, the traps that look like choices, and the moments that feel small but echo through lifetimes. You didn't fall into this world by accident. You were pulled here, drawn by karmic gravity, by lessons you weren't finished learning, by energies that didn't complete their cycle the first time around. And until you recognize it, you'll keep waking up in the same maze, calling it life, never realizing it's actually the afterlife on repeat. A loop designed not to punish you, but to wake you up. Because here's the truth, no one is coming to rescue you. There's no white-robed guardian waiting to escort you to a higher plane. That's not how this works. The only way out is in, through. Awareness, through responsibility, through consciousness, through remembering. The afterlife isn't somewhere you go. It's something you wake up inside of. And you're already here. Everything you see, touch, and believe to be solid is made of information. Not matter, not substance. Information, and that changes everything. Because if the foundation of reality is information, not atoms, then what we call life isn't a thing. It's a process, a simulation, a rendering of experience shaped by your choices, your fears, your lessons. It's not science fiction anymore. It's a growing body of work from physicists, consciousness researchers, and systems theorists who are finally catching up to what mystics have been saying for centuries. This world isn't physical, it's coded, and the code responds to consciousness. Thomas Campbell, a physicist and former NASA systems analyst, didn't just theorize this, he lived it. In his My Big Toe theory of everything, he lays out something most people aren't ready to hear, that consciousness is not a byproduct of biology, it's the other way around. Consciousness is primary. The physical world is a virtual environment, generated to facilitate its growth. In this model, you're not a person with a soul. You are the soul experiencing what it's like to be a person. You're logged into a reality system. And your avatar, your body, is just a temporary vehicle. And death, that's just logging out. But here's the kicker. This simulation isn't meaningless. It's not random. It's not chaos. It's a learning ground. You're here to evolve, not escape. This reality isn't your prison. It's your classroom. And every emotion, conflict, connection, and challenge you face is part of the curriculum. You might think you're struggling through a meaningless life, but from the perspective of your higher consciousness, every moment is data. Every mistake is a feedback loop. You're not being punished. You're being shown where you need to grow. And that's what makes this simulation so precise, so tailored. It reflects back to you the contents of your own consciousness. Your fears materialize as blocks. Your desires become temptations. Your wounds become patterns. And your growth, when you choose awareness over reaction, reshapes the system around you. You're not just in the program, you're influencing it. The simulation isn't static, it's reactive. You are not a passive player in someone else's game. You're a co-creator in a reality shaped by consciousness. And yes, this idea sounds radical until you realize that every major spiritual tradition, stripped of dogma, has said the same thing, that we are sparks of something infinite, dropped into a dense world to remember who we really are, that suffering has meaning, that this world is not the end, but a place between states, a refining fire. When you begin to see life not as a fixed sequence of events, but as a constantly updating, learning simulation, your entire framework shifts. You stop asking, why is this happening to me? And start asking, what is this trying to teach me? Because once you understand the rules of this realm, consciousness creates reality, intention drives experience, awareness is power. You stop playing the victim. You start playing with presence. And the reason this is so hard to see isn't because it's hidden. It's because it's everywhere. It's too obvious, like trying to see your own eyes without a mirror. You've been immersed in the simulation so completely that you've mistaken the program for the truth. But if you zoom out just a little, you'll start to notice the code, the synchronicities, the glitches, the way certain people appear exactly when you need them. The way life repeats itself until you get the lesson. That's not a coincidence. That's the program adapting. That's the feedback system working exactly as it was designed to. You weren't dropped here by accident. You logged in with intention. You chose this timeline, these conditions, this body, this pain, this mission, and your job isn't to run from it. It's to master it. The test was never about how well you follow the script. It was always about whether you'd remember that it is a script, and more importantly, whether you'd choose to rewrite it. There are moments when the illusion thins, when the noise fades, when something cracks through the veil and whispers, "This isn't all there is." For some, that whisper comes in dreams. For others, in déjà vu, in a split-second feeling that they've lived this moment before. For a growing number of people, it comes during something much more dramatic, something modern science still refuses to fully explain, near-death experiences. And when you truly start listening to these accounts, something disturbing happens. You realize they sound a lot like this life. Not heaven, not hell, just here, only clearer. Tens of thousands of near-death experiences come back with the same story. The names change, the languages change, but the pattern remains. They speak of time dissolving, of being in a realm where thoughts move faster than speech, where light isn't just seen but felt, where emotion becomes the medium through which everything is known. But here's the strange part. Many of them don't describe a place radically different from Earth. They describe a space where the boundaries between things are softer, where reality responds more quickly to thought, where understanding is instant and self-judgment is the heaviest weight of all. And when they return, they don't say they visited a new place. They say they came back to the same place, but less aware than before. Think about that. What if this isn't a place entirely separate from the afterlife? What if it's just a denser version of the same reality? A slowed-down layer, where thoughts take longer to become things, where cause and effect stretch over time instead of happening instantly. A kind of lagged environment for learning at a slower pace. That would explain why so many NDE survivors say life here now feels like a dream compared to what they experienced on the other side. And yet many of them come back not with fear, but with purpose, because they've seen the design, they've touched the intelligence behind it. They know now that life is not random, that our relationships are not accidental, and that every challenge we face is part of a process, one that doesn't begin or end with a heartbeat. Some say it's just a hallucination, the last firing of a dying brain. But let's be honest. How many times can the same hallucination be repeated by people from every background, culture, and belief system before we admit there's something deeper at play? It's not one story. It's tens of thousands, from heart attacks, drowning, car crashes, and battlefield injuries. Different triggers, same result. They leave this plane, and when they come back, they carry a truth they didn't have before. That we're more than our bodies, that we're here for a reason, and that this world we call life is just one frequency on a much wider spectrum. You don't need to die to start seeing it. You just need to listen. Pay attention to what's always been trying to reach you, the dreams that won't leave you alone, the moments where time slows and you feel something watching, not in fear, but in recognition. The gut feeling that this world is a school, not a sentence, and the lesson isn't to escape it, but to pass through it with eyes wide open. Because here's the hard truth. Many people die without ever realizing they were already inside the afterlife. They spend their entire existence waiting for some cosmic transition, never understanding that the transition already happened. The veil wasn't lifted, they were born into it. And the test isn't waiting beyond death. It's right here, right now, in how you choose to see, act, feel, and grow. You don't have to almost die to wake up. You just have to start paying attention to what's already happening. The simulation doesn't hide the truth. It reveals it over and over until you finally see the same patterns, the same wounds, the same emotional feedback. The code is built to push you until you ask the one question that starts to shake the whole thing. Why does this keep happening? And once you ask that, really ask it, the doors begin to open. You've been taught to see time as a line, one moment, stacked after the other, from birth to death in a neat little row. But that's not how it works. Not here, not in this reality. Time doesn't flow like a river. It coils, loops, folds in on itself like breath. What you call the past leaks into the present. What you fear in the future has already shaped your choices. And what if death isn't at the end of that line, but hidden between the folds? This is where the illusion really grips you. You think you're moving forward, evolving linearly, but look closer, and you'll see the same wounds playing out in different disguises, different jobs, same emptiness, different relationships, same argument, different goals, same dissatisfaction. You call it bad luck, but what if it's karma? Not in the cartoonish sense of punishment and reward, but in the truest form, cause and effect beyond the boundaries of time. If your soul didn't finish what it started, it doesn't get erased. It gets restructured into the next sequence, the next simulation, until you confront it with awareness. Because if time isn't linear, then death isn't a door. It's a shift in state, one that doesn't end anything but moves the story sideways, not forward, not backward, just deeper. Think of your life as a dream nested inside another dream. Every time you wake up, you realize there's another layer. And the only thing that ever really dies is your illusion of control. That's why some people feel like their life is reset after a breakdown, or a profound experience, or even a terrifying moment where everything fell apart. That was a micro-death, a timeline collapse, a version of you died, and a new one loaded in its place, but the game didn't end. It just glitched, rendered itself based on your new level of awareness. And those shifts, those cracks in time are not breakdowns, they're invitations. Every emotional spiral, every sudden loss, every groundless moment is reality whispering, "You're looping. Look again," because in a reality shaped by consciousness, time is plastic. It stretches to give you space to learn. It snaps back when you ignore the lesson. That's why the same themes keep showing up. Why some choices feel scripted, why your dreams sometimes warn you days before things happen. You're not crazy. You're just brushing up against the edges of time as it really is. And the scariest part, you've probably died dozens of times already. Not physically, but energetically. You've closed chapters so hard they left soul scars. You've left entire lives behind, but you carried the memory, the guilt, the fear, and unknowingly plugged it into your next version. You wake up in a new life, still haunted by ghosts that don't belong to your current timeline. Because your soul doesn't forget, and your lessons don't expire. This is why some people are born into chaos, into pain, into impossible odds. Because the test didn't begin at birth. It carried over in a timeless system. Your soul's curriculum isn't wiped clean. It's continued. What you didn't face before, you'll face now. And if not now, then later. Not as punishment, but because the system is built for evolution. And evolution doesn't stop when you die. It begins when you realize that death was never real to begin with. So stop thinking of life as something you're running out of. Start seeing it as something you're cycling through until you finally wake up. Time isn't your enemy. It's your teacher. And every loop you repeat is the universe giving you another chance to respond differently, with more clarity, with less ego, with a deeper understanding of who you really are. This isn't a timeline. It's a soul loop, a dream state you mistake for reality because you've forgotten you died. The moment you stop fearing death, you start living with awareness. Because now, finally, you know it's not about what comes after. It's about what's been here all along, waiting for you to remember. If you've made it this far, something in you already knows. This life you're living, this grind, this noise, this fragile pursuit of purpose, it was never the starting point. It's a continuation, a layer, a realm wrapped in feedback and symbols, looping until you begin to ask the only question that ever mattered. What am I really doing here? And the moment that question stops being intellectual and starts becoming emotional, everything begins to change. Because this isn't the end of the story. It's the real beginning. You're not broken. You're not behind. You're not cursed. You're just in a realm that was never meant to reward sleepwalking. This place was built to activate something deeper in you, and it's doing exactly that. Every breakdown, every heartbreak, every loss that made you question reality wasn't a detour. It was a message. This system was never trying to break you. It was trying to wake you. The tests weren't designed to punish. They were designed to prepare. And now you're remembering, slowly, powerfully, reluctantly maybe, but undeniably. This isn't a simulation you need to escape. It's one you're meant to master. Mastery doesn't mean control. It means understanding. It means walking into each moment with eyes wide open, seeing beyond the masks, the distractions, the roles, and realizing that everything is speaking. Every conflict is a teacher. Every setback is a lesson plan. Every person you love or hate is a mirror, and every choice is a chance to rise or repeat. There's no third option. I understood it. Do you?